Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
And I'm David Price.
And David, on this week's riff, what are you going to be talking about?
I'm going to be talking about the Yamaha NS-5000 speaker mic.
And why is it that you're going to be talking about these and I'm not?
Because you didn't hear them.
Yes. A bit disappointed about this, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, you know, I forgot to phone you up. Yes. I know for a fact you've been to the pub without me, though, many times. So don't play the
innocent.
Exactly.
No, okay, fair cop. Yeah. Interesting, actually, isn't it? Because I remember coming round to your house, where we are now, in
lovely, warm and hot and sunny
Wiltshire, and I didn't know you had NS-1000s. And I remember looking at them and thinking, oh my God, what have you bought?
Last week?
Yes, right, yes, it was my amnesia. I remember looking at them and thinking, what have you bought?
Yes.
What on earth are these? These are Yamahas. Yamaha, don't make hi-fi.
No.
And saying, what's going on? Because I sort of expected,
they're nicer barracks.
Exactly. Name SBLs,
Yes.
something flat earth. And you said, no, sit down, listen to them, you're going to be absolutely amazed. And of course, many, many moons later, you were absolutely right.
Yeah.
Do you know how long you've had the NS-1000s in your system as reference speakers for?
Yeah. So I first heard Yamaha NS-1000s in 1994.
Did you?
And I was in a record shop in Tokyo at Tower Records, and they had one stuck up on the wall. They had another stuck behind the counter sideways, and I was thinking, that sounds really good.
You don't get that
really good.
You don't get that in the Virgin Mega store, do you?
No, you don't.
Gosh,
no, it's in Shibuya, Tower Records in Shibuya, I think it was. And I was like, God, and I was, as I was flicking through my kind of long box CDs, as you did in the early 90s. I was thinking, why is that sounding so good? So I went over and had a quick peek, and I said, excuse me, what speakers are they?
Yes.
And these ones that they had were so knackered, they didn't even have the NS-1000 sticker on.
Gosh.
So basically, someone had rubbed the cabinets down or something. So the original NS-1000s came out in 1978, the NS-1000M, that is. So when I got back to the UK, I thought, I'm having a pair of those. And I bought a pair, and lo and behold, they sounded fantastic. So I've been a big fan of those.
And are these ones we've got in your room here?
Are these
your original pair?
No, so sadly I had a flood in my house about 15 years ago,
right,
where I lived in Bristol, and they were destroyed. But so I got another very good pair, basically.
Okay.
And I've had these ever since. And
I know we're sort of off topic, because we're supposed to be talking about the 5000s, but there's a bit of buyer beware here as well, isn't there? Yeah. Because you've got to be really careful. You can't just sort of pop onto eBay and buy the first pair you see, can you?
No, they're kind of like classic cars. So basically, the drive units rust. So if they're badly stored, they're badly kept. They're kept in someone's dingy garage or something. The beryllium drive units really don't. Rusting is an exaggeration, but they don't age well.
No, okay.
So you've got to be careful. But let's do a separate riff on the thousands.
Okay.
But the point is, I got into NS-1000s quite early on.
Yeah. Compared
to some people, and I was then editor of Hi-Fi World, and I had all kinds of speakers come in, like B&W brand new 801, whatever it was at that time, and had so many high-end speakers come in, and I thought, that's funny, the NS-1000 sound better or just as good.
Yes.
So one of the few speakers that came in that I didn't think was a complete game, set and match to the NS-1000s was the Quad ESL-57 One Thing Audios.
Wow.
So there we go.
Excellent. And I've got a pair of Quad ESL-63 One Thing Audios.
You have. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
So, there we go.
Excellent.
But yeah, so the NS-1000s were a great speaker, a very iconic speaker. I was told off the record by someone at Yamaha UK that they'd stopped making them, I think about 89, 90, because they were too expensive to make, basically, the cost of the materials and so on. But anyway, a long time passed, and then suddenly a few years ago, Yamaha announced that they were doing the NS-5000s.
Yes.
So naturally I was very interested to hear them, because visually they're very, very similar
They really are.
To the NS-1000s.
They really are, yeah.
So I've got a...
Slightly more sort of modernised, if
yeah,
you like.
I've got the brochure front shot here.
Yeah, they're lovely.
And they are, they're very, very close. They're not identical, but they're pretty close. They're very slightly bigger than the 1000. So they're, I think I've written down the dimensions here. So they're actually stand mount speakers for a start. So very big stand mounts, and these days that's very rare, but in the old days there's a lot of big stand mount speakers.
Yeah, Wharfdales and God knows what. Yes, Isobarics, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
TDLs, IMFs, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So they're basically 690mm, or the 5000s are 690 millimeters high, 395. I think across, and 381 deep. So big chunky stand mounters.
Yes.
And, they've got the kind of piano gloss finish. So the NS-1000Ms never had that finish, but they did do, I think, a version later. Maybe the NS-1000X had the piano gloss finish. So very interesting design, but they're not just a slightly tweaked NS-1000. And to me, the tragedy of the NS-5000s, in the sense, is they look very similar to the 1000s.
Yeah.
And then people compare them, and it's kind of like when the first new Mini came out, and it looked a bit like the original Mini, and then it wasn't quite the same, and so you've got all these kind of purists going, oh, it's rubbish, It wasn't rubbish. It was just a different car, So they basically got a port, a bass reflex port, which is shock horror, because the NS-1000s don't.
No.
But they have a very high quality cabinet, which is just like the NS-1000s did. I think they're 65. The 5000s are 65 litre cabinet. You think about the ATC SCM7 we were reviewing not long ago, with its 7 litre cabinet.
Yes.
And then you really like the ATC SCM40.
Yeah.
Which are floor standards, big floor standards, quite big, and that's only 40 litres. So you can see that these are big speakers. Can I
just ask you something?
Yeah.
I've forgotten this. This is off topic, and you've just reminded me. Keith's offered us a pair of ATC 40 actives to review.
Yes, he has. Yeah.
Okay, we won't do that. Why do you talk about Yamaha speakers?
Well, I'm all full up with speakers at my house, Mike. Do you think you could find a place for?
At a push, yes. At a push, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
We'll have a word then, shall we?
Don't tell him I'm moving house.
No. Okay. Leaving the country
exactly.
with them.
Yes.
So
flight case.
So the 5000s have got a laminated plywood enclosure of Japanese white birch. It's amazing material, and let's not forget Yamaha make concert grand pianos. They know a thing or two about cabinets, that really makes me want to get into your Yamaha DT100, Mike.
Yeah, that was great.
You had a Yamaha as well, didn't you?
I did. I had a Yamaha DT100. It was super cool.
It was.
Yeah. Passed my test on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, 2-stroke 100cc trial bike, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you had road tyres on.
Yes, I did.
And I remember you taking me on the back of that, and it was quite an interesting experience.
Handled brilliantly, didn't it?
It did handle brilliantly.
I had an RD350 LC as well, Yamaha.
Yeah. Oh, you did, yeah.
It was a good bike too.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
So
that was probably one of the best bikes.
Let's just talk about bikes for another 10 minutes.
Absolutely, yes, 100%.
So, this is the thing, actually. Seriously, Yamaha Corporation make lots of amazing stuff, don't they?
They really do.
And I think...
And they're also not afraid to to just sort of think sort of rather off the wall sometimes. I mean, the RD350 being a classic example, 350cc two-stroke, which and two-strokes by their nature aren't particularly reliable.
No,
but what an incredible machine that was.
Did you have the YVPS?
No, just the LC. Just the LC.
That's the purest.
It was very purist, pre-YPVS.
Yamaha power valve system.
Very good. I was going to say that. Brilliant.
So
these look fab. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know the NS-1000s weren't cheap. How much are these?
So these are 17.5 grand at the moment.
Okay.
So they are a proper high-end speaker, and we're talking BMW 801, 802 kind of level of price, which is there are speakers you can get for 3, 4, 5 times that. So if you're in a sort of super rich category with your own yacht, then 17.5 grand isn't much. But obviously it's the mainstream kind of high-end market, and I'd just like to bring these back into the equation here. So
lovely. Yes, very cool.
So these were £30 on eBay. Very well made.
Just making everyone jealous.
You get, tell us in the comments what speaker that was.
Yes.
Don't tell them, Pike.
If you don't know, don't tell them you speaker, Pike.
Exactly. So the interesting thing about the NS-1000s, obviously, is they had dome mid-range and dome tweeter made of basically beryllium, which is a super light metal. It's the lightest, if my O-level chemistry serves, it's the lightest metal in the periodic table. Hydrogen, helium, lithium,
carbon,
lithium, beryllium, boron.
Oh yes, okay.
Yeah, and then but lithium is a lighter metal.
And then carbon.
It's fourth, I think. So I think carbon is after beryllium.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So basically, lithium is a lighter metal than beryllium, but it's unstable in air.
Yes.
So you have to store lithium in oil, don't you? And in our chemistry class, the trick was to kind of pull the lithium out of the oil and chuck it at someone, wasn't it? But don't do that. Do not, for legal reasons, kids, don't do that. Anyway, so the point is, beryllium is very light metal. It's a lighter, stable metal. So that was the kind of USP of the NS-1000. So obviously, they're not using beryllium in the NS-5000s. They're using something called Xylon, which sounds like a kind of Austin Powers baddie, doesn't it?
So it does. Yes.
It sounds like or a kind of sci-fi thing.
Yes, a level in Scientology.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But I'm told that it's a kind of name for basically a Japanese-developed synthetic fiber, and it's said to be super strong, and it's said to have a similar acoustic velocity to beryllium. So are you all right there?
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Quick stretch.
Yeah, it's okay. So basically, Yamaha have tried to use a modern, very light, very strong drive unit material. Now, here's the really clever bit, and something that isn't even in the NS-1000. So the drive units are all Xylon. They use Xylon cone in the bass, Xylon dome in the mid, and Xylon tweeter. So there you go. So it's very, very rare in speakers to hear a speaker that has the same material used for every drive unit.
Right, okay.
Which is something that not even the NS-1000 managed to do, because the NS-1000 has paper bass units.
Well.
So there we go.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
How do they sound?
Rubbish. So no, that's not true. I was lying. So, but I had you fall for a moment. So,
because I wouldn't know because I wasn't invited.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, they sound very good, and I'll get off my soapbox in a minute. I just want to finish.
Okay, you carry on.
Yeah,
you carry on. Don't worry about me.
Yeah. So you got your one drive unit material across all units, and Yamaha said they wanted to give the feel of a single full range speaker. And the quote that I got from the guy I interviewed was a unified tone color. So there you go.
Okay.
So
okay.
And actually, it's true. It does sound really interesting because it's very uniform. It's very, you don't hear a kind of metal dome clanging and a kind of, stodgy loose paper cone, making a booming noise, and you don't hear a honking sort of Kevlar mid-range or anything. It's very, very uniform. And in that way, they succeed greatly. And they cross over at 750 hertz and 4.5 hertz, so you've got really good kind of three-way design.
Okay.
So that's really the basics of the speaker, and the answer is they sound very, very good, but they don't sound like NS-1000s.
Okay.
And for me, who loves NS-1000s, there's a little bit of a disappointment. They don't quite have that kind of razor attack transients in my mind, but at the same time, they're not quite. NS-1000s are quite bright when they're cold. You have to play them for like 20 minutes or something for them really to, kind of mellow out a bit. And that's kind of a lot of metal speakers with metal drivers do that. But these are just super uniform from the get-go, and they're very smooth, and they're very even, and they're very fast. And they do a lot of what the NS-1000s do in a great way, which is, big visceral sound, fast transients, lots of detail, crisp treble, and a kind of very gutsy, expansive sound. But they're slightly easier, I'd say, to drive.
Okay. Being ported and that.
Yeah. So NS-1000s are quoted as 91 dB sensitivity at 1 watt, and these are quoted at 88. But I think these are an easier load, and they seem to, not quite beat up the amplifier so much, maybe in terms of impedance.
And what did you listen to?
Right, well, that's great. So I've sort of gone through my listening notes, and
classic album.
Yeah.
Love this album.
Absolutely.
It's just
such a good album, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, excellent.
Yeah, so Man Machine 79, I think.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And, you've got the robots and Space Lab and Metropolis and the model, etc. on that.
Yeah. So now I've got an interesting question for you here, and I know you'll know the answer, being a bit of a muso. Wasn't it the single from this? Wasn't it Neon Lights? And wasn't the B-side the model?
Yes.
And didn't then somebody play the model and go, oh, that's good, and that was all that ever got played, but it actually wasn't the A-side?
Yes, and if I remember rightly, the model was basically re-released or released a year or two later as well.
Okay.
So, okay. So it was, you'll have to go through Wikipedia to find the exact release dates, but exactly.
But there's a story behind it.
Yeah, and Neon Lights was a fantastic song.
Yes.
But, they did all kinds of. I think there's EMI in the UK, wasn't it? That,
sounds about right.
Yeah. So we got. Yeah. Here we go.
Cling clang.
That's right. So, but this is a great record for. It's incredibly well recorded record, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really
and the
good.
better your hi-fi system, the better this sounds.
Yeah, 100%.
And
100%.
Yeah, really fantastic. Similar kind of vintage. So.
Wheels of Steel.
I know you're a big heavy rock fan, mate. So should do our Tommy Vance voices.
Yes, absolutely.
So not off, etc. And so this has got 747 Strangers in the Night, which is their big hit from the late 70s, mate, or maybe 1980. And it's a really good recording, actually.
Oh yeah.
So most heavy metal albums, in my view, are not exceptionally well recorded, but this one is.
Okay.
And this really, you can really hear, the bass is really tight, and the whole mid band is very open and clean, and a lovely kind of tinsely open treble.
Nice.
And this is, if I've just embarrassed myself with that last album, I'd like to get my call points back with Swimming Horses from Susie
look at
the
that.
Banshees.
Yes, excellent.
So there we go.
Very good.
So, great recording, lovely kind of big piano lead. I think it's about 1985 this was. It's probably, I think, it's one of their last good singles, actually. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, absolutely wonderful recording on the right kit.
Okay.
And again, it's a big, powerful, visceral sound. and it's very dynamic. And the NS-1000s the NS-5000s do a lot of what the NS-1000s do, which is to give you a big, punchy, physical sound, that really accents dynamics, and it's much less kind of Radio 2 than a lot of British speakers, which are a little bit kind of polite by comparison.
Yes.
But at the same time, the NS-5000s are not as sort of, kind of take your head off in terms of fierceness with a bad recording.
No,
so
okay.
Just a little bit more middle of the road.
Okay.
And this is going to completely destroy any reputation I've ever had in my life. Do you know this
my God, is it a Boney M?
It's a Boney M
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So this is an absolutely crap song, but it's brilliantly recorded.
Hooray, hooray, it's a holly day.
It's an awful song. But this is what you need to do, Vuz. You need to suffer for your art. And Mike's... So, a great disco production.
Okay, well look, we can't do a riffometer because I haven't heard them.
Yes.
You don't have them in your room instead of the NS-1000s, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not very good. It just means they're different. This is what I'm gleaning from all of this.
Well, I prefer my NS-1000s.
Okay, well, there we go. See, I wasn't going to ask the question. There you answered it.
But you can't buy NS-1000s new, and the 5000s do an awful lot of what the 1000s do, but you can buy them.
There we are.
If you blow up your 1000s, you're in big trouble. If you blow up your 5000s, you can still get the drive units.
There you are. There we are.
And they're a little bit more... The 5000s are kind of a little bit more user-friendly. It's like a lot of kind of modern versions of classic cars. They've got an awful lot of what the good stuff was, but without the kind of bad stuff. If that
there
makes
we are,
sense.
And I think they look really smart as well.
Yeah,
they really do. So you know what's going to happen next, don't you? We're going to have to get a pair for me to listen to from somewhere.
That's going to have to be after your ATCs go back.
Oh yes, when we go back. Brilliant. Look, and on that note, thank you so much for watching this episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I feel a follow-up coming to this as well at some point.
So what could we possibly do
what
after
can we
this?
possibly do after this? Exactly.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thanks again, and we'll look forward to seeing you very much at the next one. Bye.
Bye.